Hi and welcome back to another episode of Just 5 Minutes. On this episode we're having a look at .NET MAUI. We're back into the Microsoft .NET world, but don't worry, we will cover other things. But anyway, .NET MAUI, basically .NET multi-platform app UI. So MAUI, multi-app UI, I guess. A little bit easier to say than everything else. But anyway, what is it? Well, it's a lot of things, but even though it has UI in there, there seems to be quite a bit more behind this. Incidentally, the stuff that I'm talking about is ideally going to be it's going to be targeting .NET 6. Apparently, there's going to be some previews of .NET 6 later this year, i.e. 2020, with a release of .NET 6 sometime in 2021, I guess. But the whole point is that if you've ever heard of something called Xamarin, it used to be a separate company. They built native cross-platform mobile framework, mainly for iOS and Android, being the two prominent mobile stacks, I guess. And Microsoft bought Xamarin, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago or something. But the idea is that out of that, or not just out of that, but a subset of that was Xamarin Forms, which I guess was targeted basically around, I guess developers that didn't necessarily want to write specific iOS and Android code. They just wanted line of business, or in other words, non-game development, but native across platforms on the mobile side. So Xamarin Forms came along and did a really good job. I've used it and it's brilliant. You've got a good chunk, if not, I think for me personally, writing, like a line of business app or non-games, something like, I don't know, you could imagine Twitter being written with that. I'm not saying you could or couldn't, but I'm just saying it's anything where you've got that type of environment. And the idea being is that Xamarin Forms allowed you to use or reuse pretty much everything across those different platforms. And in later evolutions, it also meant you could write or target basically Windows 10 apps. And subsequently, people have then found ways of creating macOS apps. So you've got not just the mobile, you're now moving into a desktop. So the idea is with .NET MAUI is it's that unification, but it's more than that, about the build system underneath and single project, single code base, a cross-platform native UI for all of that, not just mobile. So the idea is that, as I understand, is that you can imagine a .NET Core sort of project, and you've got just a standard UI, but you've got where in Xamarin at the moment you might have different projects for iOS, Android, macOS, etc., where you're sort of sharing code, but it's still sort of separate projects. This is one project. Now, of course, there's going to be some sort of sub-project, a subfolder with the platforms in there, because there's going to be sort of unique things that iOS wants and Android wants and macOS wants and Windows apps wants. So that'll be where things like assets go and other bits and pieces. But the point being is that you're going to have a centralized sort of project that you can deploy. And again, when you build and deploy, you just go build, deploy, bang, target whichever platform it is. So it sounds very interesting, but one of the things I didn't realize, even now, is as a Windows developer, you can actually target a build of an iOS app. So if you've got an iPhone that you can plug in, you don't need a Mac, whereas in the past you needed a Mac to actually do the actual build down to an iOS sort of platform or a macOS platform. I didn't realize that even right now you can actually do a build. It actually compiles the iOS code on the phone, on the iPhone. So that's pretty incredible actually. But I think even though it's .NET 6, I know .NET 5 is on its way and all the rest of it, but it's still quite exciting. And I think having that unified, it was going that way anyway, but certainly to be able to target mobile forms as well as desktop forms from a single project is quite incredible. So there's some links below. It is quite exciting if you've there's lots of social media sort of stuff about it, but that for me is the core of this. So until next time, goodbye for now.